is freedom. Yeah, it's just nothing like being out on your bike. The sun is setting. You don't even know where you're going to sleep. You got your favorite song hitting different while you're pedaling. That's what it's all about. I think, yeah, it's like the closest I've ever been and ever will be to freedom is just being on your bike.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries, or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello listeners, it's Bella Malloy here, host of Seek Travel Ride, and my guest today is actually no stranger to the podcast, as I'm joined once again by adventurer and long-distance cyclist Saima Abouhamad. Now, I first interviewed Saima almost exactly 1 year ago to discuss his impressive adventures, which at that point had taken him from Boston to Ushuaia, and then from the Nordkap in Norway all the way to Cape Town in South Africa. When we last spoke, Saima had literally just announced the final leg of this incredible journey, the last pieces in the round-the-world puzzle, as he made plans to cycle from Melbourne, Australia, all the way to his family in Beirut, Lebanon. Now, I'm really stoked to say, just a few weeks ago, Saima completed that monumental ride. I've had the absolute pleasure of interviewing my fair share of round-the-world bike travellers on this podcast, but I can say that my mind still can't compute a journey of this type of distance. All up, in the last 3 years, Saima has ridden 73,000 kilometres and travelled across 6 continents. This last stretch alone has been breathtaking, both figuratively and literally. Saima has dealt with extremes of intense desert heat as well as freezing temperatures navigating huge mountain passes. And he's had some fairly questionable road surfaces and headwinds, no doubt, too. He's also had to draw on huge amounts of mental resilience to getting through some intense sections of this journey. He's dealt with the isolation that comes with cycling through Central Australia's outback, not to mention those corrugations. Then there's the wild remoteness of the Tibetan Plateau, the high mountains of the Pamirs, and even time spent cycling through Afghanistan. He's been sick with food poisoning, he's dealt with the frustration of enforced police security escorts, and if I was asked to choose some words to describe his journey as a whole, they'd probably be adaptation, connection, and exploration. But while the ride can be one of extremes, there's no doubt also been some amazing high points for Saima all along the way. And I'm not just talking about mountain passes here. So for this episode, listeners, I'm planning on going beyond a chronological timeline of where Saima's been on this last leg of his journey. And I want to explore some of the bigger themes, his lessons, transformations that can only come having spent 3 years cycling around the world. Saima Abouhamad, you absolute dead set legend, a big warm welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Bella. And honestly, what an unbelievable introduction. Thank you. I'm flattered. And yeah, it feels like yesterday we were chatting about my adventure that I was going to do. So yeah, thanks for having me again. And super excited to catch up and maybe share some lessons. I don't know what I got. We'll see.
Oh, you've got the truth and a big smile and a lot of happiness abounding. I think this is going to be a joyful podcast, Saima. I actually remember when I spoke with you, I think it was actually on the pod that you announced what the next leg of your journey was going to be. And I remember thinking, whoa, because as an Aussie, I knew where you were starting from. And I knew just even going through the outback in Central Australia was a pretty big deal. And then where you were going to be heading to after that, up through Southeast Asia, across through China, Central Asia. Oh my goodness me. To get all the way through to Lebanon, what an absolute freaking trip. Saima, I've got a heap of questions for you. I normally start them with one I've already asked you, so I'm going to put a spin on it. And instead, I'm going to say, Saima Abouhamad, can you tell me about the very first day of this bike leg leaving from Melbourne?
I actually could, yeah. I arrived, after a long travel day from the US, like over 30 hours of traveling, and I stayed with a friend of a friend who I connected with on social media. And I literally left the next morning. Like I stayed on a couch and I was gonna stay a few days to like get jet lagged, but I was just so excited and like eager to hit the road that I left. Like I slept like a couple hours and just left that morning. So after 30 hours of travel, I left Melbourne. And I remember again, I was also so excited to just hit the road. I didn't eat any breakfast and then almost bonked like 3 hours into my ride on the outskirts. And then that afternoon, it rained. And I was like, what am I doing? And I kind of was like, not really mentally ready and still tired from my travel. And then I found like the cheapest hotel I could find and slept in a motel. So a pretty uncool an unadventurous first day. But that's like anything. It's just easier to just start and figure it out. So I got a good night's sleep that first night in a bed and then hit the road again. I felt like my real departure the next day.
Yeah, something that's occurred to me is like getting up and get going again the next day, the next day. When you're on a big journey like this, and this is I think it's the third leg of a huge journey. You're someone that's really, really good at mentally breaking stuff down into milestones, right? But something that you must also be pretty good at is being disciplined to getting up and going in the morning. I know, same, or I've interviewed some bike travelers who some of the thing they love about bike travel is just taking their time in the morning and, having their coffee, just getting their flow into the day. I know you do big distances. I know you don't carry a heap of gear on you on your bike. You're probably traveling a lot lighter than a lot of people that would be doing the same sort of distances. What are you like in the mornings getting up and going? Like, do you give yourself a pep talk to get up and at it, so to speak, or are you raring to go and full of beans?
Good question. I mean, I honestly think it depends where you are in the context of your trip. But yeah, like the first day or first weeks of a trip, you're just so excited. So that's why that first day, I was so eager to get going. I would say I'm sort of disciplined, but in the same way, like I never set an alarm when I'm on the road. I just wake up usually, I'm sure like many other travelers, you kind of fall into a natural rhythm where where you're ending around sunset. If you're camping, you set up everything. Maybe I'll scroll on my phone or read for a little, and you end up going to bed at the same time. And then I usually wake up with the sun. So like I would say I'm consistent, but I'm not necessarily like scientific about my approach, like setting an alarm every day, making sure I go to bed at a certain time. But I do think, there is something to be said for just keeping momentum and not lingering too long in the same place, I think. And again, there's no right or wrong way to travel. Like you said, some people the highlight of of their travels is cooking and cooking meals and cool spots. And so there's no right or wrong way to do it. But yeah, I would say I get excited to get on the bike and just start moving through and keeping the momentum. So yeah, I'm consistent, but not necessarily that disciplined.
Were there times where you were stuck in one place for more than a night? I can't recall. Apart from, say, waiting for a visa or something like that, were you ever in the same place more than once?
I would take breaks. Is that the question? Like rest days?
No, 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 no. Breaks and rest days to me are sort of planned, but are there times where you had wanted to push on, but say you were up on, you're traversing the Pamirs, the weather's come in, you really wanted to keep going, but you couldn't because there's a storm. Like, did you have those sort of situations?
I had those situations, and I also had situations. Well, you mentioned the Pamir, so this situation comes to mind where, like, after a week, after 10 days on the Pamir, I was like dreaming of getting to Dushanbe, which is the capital of Tajikistan and the end point of the Pamir. So in my head, I was like doing the math. I have like, oh, I might have 3 more days to get there, and I was just dreaming of getting there and having like pizza and like feasting. And then I think I was like 100K from Dushanbe. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's one more day. But on that second to last day, I was just so beat, so tired, so hungry. And I was like, all right, like, what does it matter if I do get to Dushanbe in 4 days or 3 days? So, like, that's an example of a day where I finished a climb. There was like a little hotel right next to me. And I was like, all right, like, that's my sign. And I just called it. So, yeah, that happens quite frequently. Let me think. For mountain passes, again on the Pamir, because we're talking about the Pamir, there's one big mountain pass at the start of the Pamir when you leave from Osh and you're about to enter before getting to Tajikistan. And that climb, like I got to the base of the last climb at like say 4 o'clock, and sun doesn't set till 7:30. So the guy, like I have time to do the climb, So I start the climb, and then on the climb, it starts snowing. But like once you start the climb, like what are your options? You could turn back and go backwards, which is like a nightmare once you've done most of the climb. You can't really stop, right? So at that point, it's just like you push through. I got to the top, and then had like a 10K descent where I was like freezing.
Freezing, yeah,
Freezing, yeah. And then I
freezing.
got to a town, Saritash. People who have done the Pamir will recognize it. And there was a guest house. I got tea. I like undressed everything. I was soaking. I got tea and was putting the tea on my feet because my feet, I had no sensation. So, like, that's obviously not ideal, but you can't really stop there. So it depends where you are. But yeah, there's been forced rest. Stuff has gone wrong. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, stuff happens all the time, as you know. So,
Absolutely. I could take you to extremes because I know, you're talking about there a situation where you were freezing cold. And I know that you had some really intense heat, even just in the final stages of your journey. Well, I think
yeah,
you had intense heat in the desert in Australia too, right?
the top half I did because it was starting to be summer. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you had some pretty intense moments from Oman on,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
actually made you change your sleep rhythms. I think you actually ended up riding through the night and sleeping in the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was probably one of the hardest sections I've done in like all 3 years. And I don't know if that's because it's recency bias. It was just last month. But yeah, it was really tough because in my head, I was like so close to the finish line. But like to get to the finish line, I had like I would check the wind app every day, and every day I would just see it was going to be headwind. And then I would check the temperatures every day, and I would see every day it was going to be, over 40, almost 50 Celsius during the day.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. And then I would check the map, and I would see that I didn't have a single turn all day. So, like, those are the days when you wake up and you're not excited to bike. You asked earlier, like, that was days when I'd wake up and I was like, what am I doing?
Was that when you had like a police escort as well to have to deal with too?
That was the second half. So from Oman till the first half of Saudi, no police escort. But then I entered like the northern state of Saudi and they started assigning me a police escort. But yeah, so like to get through that section, it would be impossible during the day to bike during the sun because like I've biked through sun before. I was in the desert, like you said, in Australia. I did Baja, Mexico in the summer, which was also pretty hot. But like this was another level. If you go to one of those Gulf states in the summer and you step outside, it literally is like a weight on your shoulders. Like the heat is like crazy heat. I've never experienced anything like it.
It is, and also depending where you are, there's humidity sometimes with that heat too.
Yes, exactly. So biking in the night at least made it possible. So yeah, like I basically did one really really long day to adjust my schedule where I biked like all day, took a break, and then biked all night, and then fell asleep that next day. And then from there, like my sleep schedule was shifted. I would basically wake up at like 5, 6 p.m., have breakfast or dinner, whatever you want to call it, bike all night, and then like as the sun was starting to rise at 4 or 5 a.m., I would like start looking to places to sleep. But even with that, you can't camp outside in the heat either. I was sleeping at mosques. Sometimes I would find cheap hotels in Saudi, but not really that cheap. Or yeah, I met a couple like hosts or people along the way would stop their car and give me water, and then they'd be like, "Yo, when you get to this town, call me. You have a place to stay." So a mix of that like made it possible. And again, like I never people always ask me if I wanted to like quit. I've never ever wanted to quit or thought about quitting. But the closest I got was like in Saudi. I was like, "What am I doing? Why don't I come back in the winter?" But then I would be like, "All right, like I'm so close to Lebanon, like one day at a time, one day at a time."
Because a journey this big, you can't make too many plans because plans, as soon as you set them, change, especially on a bike tour. Like you've got to have flexibility in there because originally you weren't, I guess, planning to be in Saudi at that time. I'm not even sure if you were planning to be in Saudi at all because I think originally you were planning to go through Iran.
Correct. Yeah.
Who would want to go through Saudi in peak summer? Like,
Yeah. Well,
I
well,
wonder how many
actually,
people actually have SEMA. Like, it can't be that many.
it can't be. Yeah, I don't know either, but it can't be many. And every person I met was like, "You're crazy right now." But you're right that my plan was to go from Afghanistan to Iran, and right as I was the day or a couple days before I was about to enter Afghanistan, like the problems broke out in Iran, and then I was like, all right, what should I do? Because I didn't want to go. The other option to go without flying is to go north, back north through Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, try to get a Russian visa, which is a process in and of itself,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then go
yeah,
back
totally.
down the other way, or fly over the Caspian Sea. And in my head, I was like, I don't want to do the Russia option because that takes so long. And even if I went the Russian option or if I flew over the Caspian Sea, the only way to get to Lebanon by biking 100% would have been from Saudi, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. Because the Turkey to Syria border is still closed for foreigners. Western Iraq, they put you in the back of a car and escort you. So you can't go Iraq to Jordan. So my plan was to always do, was going to do Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi, but it would have been a week or two. It would have been like 10 days less from Oman to where I met up with.
And potentially slightly different time of the year as well, maybe? Like, I'm still
Maybe it
wondering.
would have taken a little more, so it could have been September.
Yeah, and maybe the summer might not have been as intense.
Yeah.
I don't want this pod to focus on all the extremes, like high mountain peaks and freezing cold and warming your feet up with tea and then battling through 40 and 50-degree heat in Saudi.
It's true. It's true.
Because you know what? I am dead set certain, Samer, that there would have been awesome moments on your trip where things were quite tranquille, as they say here in France, tranquillo, and just beautiful, and maybe still some hecticness there, but making your kilometres and pushing on through the day wasn't stressful necessarily. If I was to ask you which country felt the most easiest, the most fluid to travel through, and what would you recall? Where would you say?
Uh, Maybe I have a two-part answer, but in terms of like logistical ease and very little stress and planning required, I would just say, generally speaking, Southeast Asia is pretty easy for that stuff because there's huge tourist infrastructure almost everywhere, and there's awesome food and cheap food everywhere too. And so that was pretty fun to ride in Southeast Asia because I would just wake up and have nothing planned, but I know for sure like I'll figure stuff out because there's access to everything, and there's not too many of those extremes you mentioned. I mean, there is heat sometimes, but you have a 7-Eleven like every kilometer in Thailand. In terms of like ease, and like less stress free stuff, I would say Thailand and Malaysia and even parts of Cambodia are pretty, chill. And in Thailand too, you just roll up, you're feeling tired, you just go take a dip in the ocean, have like a fresh juice for less than $1.
There's a lot of people that choose to go on a nice, relaxing holiday in Thailand, so I could imagine it would be a nice place to be a bike traveler too.
Yeah, yeah. And I met so many travelers, who are just doing a loop in Southeast Asia. And I think that's like a great intro trip because also from a cultural perspective there's so much in such small distances to see, and you could cross off 5 countries, and it's all pretty manageable, I would say. I think my favorite country in terms of just flow and like excited to discover every day on this trip was China. Like I had no
Mm.
expectations, and growing up in the US, like I never know if what I'm hearing about China is like the truth or not. But so to be able to discover China myself with the bike was just like so awesome. Food is delicious and fresh everywhere. There's geographic diversity. You have jungle in the south. You have the Tibetan Plateau, which you mentioned earlier. You could head west and you have part of the Gobi Desert. And then there's a whole part of the country in the east that I didn't explore. But I love China. And then the people, there's diversity of people too. You have the Tibetan Buddhists, you have the Uyghurs in the west, you have Chinese Muslims, you have the I forget what it's like the majority Chinese race. Yeah, so China was a dream too.
Your dad met you there too, didn't he? Your dad came
Yeah,
across to meet you in China for a few days of riding together. That would have been awesome.
and that was cool too to share time with him. So he met me in a place called Shining, and yeah, he biked with me for 6 days. He's a busy guy, so I'm grateful that he took time to come meet me, and it's like special moments to share with your dad. Really, he's met me now 5 times, so
You know what? I was actually thinking we've got a lot to thank your dad for because if my memory serves me correctly, when I first interviewed you, It was your dad who sort of introduced you to actually riding bikes in the first place, right?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Samer.
Yeah.
But China was definitely a place, though, where you were just like, everything was new, you were curious, things felt different every day.
Yeah, and things like work well. So from an infrastructure, like roads were perfect. You have cell connection everywhere. I didn't take out cash once because you could do everything from your phone. So even all that was new. Like it was a cool culture. And then everyone's pretty technologically savvy, if I'm generalizing. So despite the language barrier, you could still communicate pretty well with a translator compared to other countries where sometimes even with a translator like it's hard to get momentum in a conversation because it takes so long to go back and forth. Generally speaking, with Chinese it was pretty seamless to have a conversation with a translator, so that was really cool. That was a cool experience for me to be in China, and I think it was a cool discovery period, but it was also, I think you said, flowy was your question, like where did it flow well.
Yeah.
China was a great flow because I was excited to like tackle new stuff every day and see new things. And also, I was like the only foreigner tourist I saw in all of China, basically. I felt special in a way. It was cool to have that again. Because in Southeast Asia, there's so many tourists, you don't even get a second look. But in China, I felt
Yeah.
like a rock star again, you know?
It's all about being a rock star, Sam. I'm getting a picture of you now. Actually, you
Kind
know
of.
what? You did have some extra. You did make a good friend there in China who joined you, a fellow bike traveler, Brian. This was in the
Brian, you should
Tibetan
interview him.
Plateau.
He's still going right now.
He's
I'm
on the
sure you're
list.
following him.
He is. He's in country. He's in France. I have.
He's
I've
in
I've swapped
country.
messages with him today.
Good, good.
I wanted to come to a quote that you had on a day when you were in the Tibetan Plateau, and you
Oh,
said, well, this was, look, reflecting back, one of the most mystical sections of road I have ridden. 2 days after leaving Chengdu, I caught up with Brian. We climbed up to the Tibetan Plateau, eventually getting up to 3,800 metres. There, we were thrown into a totally new world and culture. The crazy lights and tall buildings of Chengdu slowly were replaced with shepherds herding their cattle, yaks and goats, and beautiful temples with golden roofs. As expected, it was very cold and windy. In order to increase my circulation in my feet, I switched to wearing my Crocs with triple socks, 2 plastic bags laid around each foot in between the socks. We also stopped at roadside stands that sold dried yak meat, instant noodles, animal furs, gave us hot tea. We ate many, many dumplings as well, and on one particular night, we ordered, listen to this, listeners, 84 dumplings between the two of us, and the people next to us couldn't believe what they were seeing. A highlight was seeing all the small alpine temples along the way. Langmasu was a town on the eastern edge of the plateau, and the Langbu temple complex where there were more monks than villagers and more temples than we could count. That sounds like an absolutely amazing experience. Just if that was all you did, what an amazing experience. I also, fair play to you and Brian, 84 dumplings. I always think I can always eat more, but that's a lot of dumplings, man.
yeah. Well, you know how it is when you're cycling, the appetite is endless. But yeah, a few things to respond to. First, I'll say shout out to my friend Brian, who is almost done with his trip. And he started in New Zealand and he's
Yeah.
in France, but I don't think he's ready to end yet. He's added himself a 3,000-kilometer detour through Germany now. So, anyway, shout out to Brian. And also, I don't know if we talked about it last year, but yeah, it's, you meet so many other travelers, but it's hard to find like a travel buddy because a lot needs to line up for it to work, like you need to A, be going the same way, B, like you want someone you get along with, and C, you need someone with like a similar physical capacity as you. So I thought like with Brian, it was like a match on all those. Like we got along great. We had so many laughs, and he's super strong, and he has even more weight than me, and he was like flying up hills. I was like, damn, this guy's strong. And then yeah, we were both going the same way, so it was really really nice to share kilometers with him, and I think he'll make a great guest when once you have him on.
Well, I did reach out to Brian because I wanted to get a question from Brian to you, and because Brian's a legend, he sent one through, so stand
Oh,
by.
he did.
Of course he did. And then we swapped a lot of messages after the fact, but I'm going to play you his question into the microphone.
Oh, okay.
And we'll hear your response.
Hello, mates. Here's Brian. So, first of all, congratulations on what you just achieved. That's just insane, bro. I'm really glad I had the honor to ride along with you for a couple of days on the Tibetan plateau. And speaking of China, we had quite rough sleeps under bridges in the desert, in the Gobi Desert, like windy nights. And I was wondering, what was your worst night ever? And also, what was your best night ever? So I hope you have a good rest with your family and friends in Beirut, and that we will see you around. Bye bye, mate.
There we go. There's the legend Brian himself.
That's a great question.
It is. It is. I think only a fellow bike traveller who's lived that experience would ask it too. So tell me firstly about the nights that Brian is describing in the tunnels under the road there, and then let's describe your best and worst sleep and I guess shelters for the night.
Yeah. So, yeah, like he alluded to, um, the Gobi Desert, there was literally a stretch of maybe 400K with close to nothing. So, and there's pretty significant winds there. So, yeah, the only good place to take shelter is like under the roads. You know, they have those drainage pipes kind of thing.
Yeah, in Australia
So,
we would call it like a culvert, but yeah, I
a
know
culvert.
exactly what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
exactly.
about.
No, but
Yep,
that's what it is. So, Brian, at this point, I took a break and waited for my dad. So he was ahead of me for this section, but I was following him. He was doing it and I was doing it. And I think it's the only way to camp in that part of China if you don't want to get blown over. But I will say the worst, again, it's hard to pick a worst, but since Brian's asking the question, I'll answer with a story that happened with me and Brian.
great.
So, yeah, this was our first night getting to the plateau. And for those listeners who are wondering how I got into Tibet. Going into the region of Tibet requires like permits and a lot of planning and a guide. But the Tibetan plateau extends like wider than the actual region, the defined region itself. So you could go to the plateau and get a taste of Tibetan Buddhist culture without actually entering the Tibetan autonomous region. So that's what we did. And our first night, we were in a town where a tourist town, but since we were on shoulder season, this is still early April. Not much is open, and all the hotels were refusing us as foreigners, except one hotel, and that one hotel was like $80 or $70, so we weren't trying to do that one. So we ended up finding like a patch of grass like on the outskirts of town that someone had pointed us to that was camping was allowed, and there was like these two deserted tents. So it was actually perfect, like these massive teepees. So we go in, I lay my ground sheet, we both sleep, we have a good night, and I wake up the next morning and I take off my ground sheet, and I guess I slept like on top of a human turd. So
Oh,
that yeah,
I was
yeah, so
waiting for you to say there was a scorpion or something.
yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
ready
So
for that.
but so I was on the bottom of my
It's
ground
a
sheet. I
glamorous
didn't have
life.
it. Yeah, right. So no, hopefully Brian will get a laugh out of that if he's listening. He'll remember that. We slept great, honestly, in that little tent. It was just in the morning. I had some cleanup to do, which wasn't that cool. So we'll call that one the worst of recent memory. Uh, the best. It's always hard to pick one, you know. Let me think. Yeah, I mean the first one from this trip that came to my mind right now is in the Pamir, my first night on the in the Bartang Valley. I just had a nice view. I was next to the river and not a soul or sound all night, all morning. So those are special nights, Usually when you're camping, like you'll I don't know. This one really felt alone and it was like dead quiet, no sound of the road, no animals, no bugs, just like the sound of silence, in the river, actually, the river. So that one comes to mind.
I've heard monumental things about the Bartang Valley, and actually, this is a perfect segue to my next question. Because it was when you just finished crossing the Bartang Valley, serendipity meant that you met and crossed paths with previous podcast guests of mine,
Yes.
Rebecca and Harvey. And I, of course, reached out to them as well and said, hey, I'm interviewing Samer. Have you got something for me to ask him? And
Oh,
here's their
wow.
question.
Hello. Hello, Seema. Congratulations for your amazing achievement.
We are Rebecca and Javi, the couple you met right after the Batang Valley. And you convinced us to do the same route. And now we have some questions for you.
The first question is, do you still have stickers from this trip? Because we've been following your route for months and finding your stickers everywhere. But when we met you, you were so cheap that you only gave us one. And now this one is on Rebecca's frame, but I don't have any for my frame. So if you still have some, please send us a few.
And my question is, you wrote in the guest book of the homestay in Godara, be naive enough to start and stubborn enough to finish. So was there any hard moment where you thought of stop doing this?
Listeners, I want to talk about sunglasses and I want to give a huge shout out to Ombres. Specifically, I've been rocking the Refugio Sunnies and these things have honestly been a revelation for me. Now, I don't know about you, but I have had the heartbreak of breaking much loved sunglasses before. My favourite pair snapped and seriously, I tried everything to fix them. I even had a friend try and reintegrate the arm for me. I tried to go back to the original supplier and it was a discontinued model and I had absolutely no luck. Anyway, I have recently switched to Ombres and here's the clever part. They actually don't have sidearms. Instead, they use this lightweight cord system which sits comfortably around your head and they stay perfectly in place. Seriously, they do not slip, they do not roll down your nose when you're riding and your nose is sweaty or you're heading down a descent. You don't have to continually move them around and shift them. And the other thing is they have no arms to break in the first place and they don't get tangled in your hair. That was an unexpected great thing. And trust me, if you've seen a photo of me, you know that I've got some pretty wild curly locks and not having sunglasses get tangled in there is a great thing as well. But here's the real kicker. For every pair that they make, Ombres plant 20 mangrove trees. So they're producing stuff which is brilliant for your bike adventures while at the same time being absolutely awesome for our planet as well. If you want to check them out and support the podcast, head to the affiliate link which I have put in the show notes. Honestly, once you try Ombres, you're not going to go back to your conventional sunnies.
Looking forward on your next adventure, and we hope that we will cross paths again.
Wow, it's great to hear from other people. Thank you, Bella,
it is.
for
And can
doing
I just
that.
say, on the back of Harvey, Samer, I'd like one of your stickers too, and I'll swap you with some of my stickers. So
Yes. Okay, to answer his first question, no, I ran out of stickers not long after the premiere because
We
the
need some new
premiere I was
stickers.
seeing like 20, I was seeing like 10 cyclists a day on the premiere. And the day I met Rebecca and Javi, I think I told them when I met them, but they were like number 9 and 10 on that specific day. I was like, wow, so many people are starting the premiere now. So, and also big respect to them because the way I did the Bartang is a negative elevation game. Like you go down from the plateau to, I went down 1,000 meters or two, and they
Yeah.
did it the other way,
Other way.
with more weight than me. And I think Javi is working with 1.5 inch tires. So like I have big respect for them. You know what I mean? What they did it the harder way and with way more
absolutely.
weight and less tires.
Yeah, I think something that I recall, because Rebecca's been awesome and sending through periodic updates of their trip every month, which I'm sharing midweek, and around about once a month. And I remember one of the things you said is every time when they started their journey leaving from Austria, they always told themselves that every hard climb and every hard road and dirt road would be great practice for the premieres. And then they get to the premieres and they realise, no, it wasn't. It's just really hard there.
Yeah, I mean, even I had the same idea too. It's like, oh, I've biked so much. I've done Peru and I've done whatever. I was like, yeah, Pamir, like, it'll be fine. And I mean, it was fine, but it was like harder than I thought too. Like, because I finished the Bartang, which I thought was like, oh, like the hard part. But then you get to like the main Pamir highway and it doesn't really get that much easier.
There's a lot of construction on it too, right?
There's construction now, and the parts that aren't finished are still pretty bad. And, and then you still have one pretty big climb leaving Calais Coombe. But so they were, it was great to meet them. So hello if they're listening, and thank you for the question.
Yeah, they're in China.
Yeah, they're in China. And I saw that Javi shaved his beard, and he's unrecognizable.
I know. He's like all of a sudden like 20 years younger, right?
Yeah. So shout out to Rebecca and Javi. So that was the first question. I'm out of stickers. And then the quote from that guest book, I don't know where I got that quote. It actually might have been someone from your podcast. Well, what's the name of the woman whose handle is Explore by Bicycle? She went
Oh,
from
Claire.
Mongolia to
Claire
the UK.
Wyatt. Yeah. Claire.
Did she say that on your podcast?
Perhaps she has. It sounds like something Claire could say. And I mean, Claire finished her journey as well. What a legend Claire
I
is.
know, I saw that. So shout out to her or someone, wherever I got that quote. I think it's so true. It's like it's kind of what we were talking about before you hit record. It's like you could think of 1,000 reasons not to start a trip, but it's almost better to just be naive and like start it. And then once you start, it's like, yeah, you got to finish. And also, we were sort of talking about this before. It's like when you start a trip, I think it's helpful to say it and tell people because it holds you accountable to actually finishing it.
Yeah, as soon as you say something out loud,
Yep. You're projecting it into the universe.
yeah. What gets measured gets done.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a quote that triggers me actually. It's from my corporate life. It was about monthly reporting. But anyway, but it's apt in bike travel too.
Oh, man.
Did you ever feel like, back to Rebecca's question, were there
Yeah.
moments where you were pushed a bit too extreme and felt like giving up? Because that's a natural thing to feel too. Like, there would have been exceptionally low moments. I know you had some pretty low moments with food poisoning, and obviously you had some low physical moments where the terrain's hard or the heat's hard or the cold's hard. But mentally, that's draining too in other aspects for different reasons. What was your lowest moment, and where did you feel close to giving up? Was it, like you said before, like around Saudi?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not to go back to that one, but in my 3 years traveling, that was definitely like the lowest I've been because, yeah, it just like I wasn't having fun biking at night. Like I said, you're biking at night into a headwind with no left or right turns in a straight line with limited resupplies. There like was very little to get excited about. And so that was the hardest. But a lot of times, usually when things are tough and like you might want to quit, you're just like not in a position to quit. It's like you just need to get to the next town, you know? And then by the time you get to the next town, you go to sleep somewhere, you have a good meal, and then you wake up and the next day, like you don't really want to quit anymore.
It's amazing when you tell me that. It reminds me of, I've interviewed people from many different facets of bike travel. I've interviewed people who travel very slowly. I've interviewed people who travel very fast. I've interviewed people who race, ultra races. And that's something that's come up a few times when I've interviewed people racing ultras, has been, even if they wanted to scratch and quit the race, they've still got to keep going because they're in the middle of nowhere and they've got to get to somewhere. So it's not going
Yeah.
to help them. And then often the answer is have some rest, drink some water, have a coffee, have some food, chill, and then things can be worked out.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself a little mini timeout with food.
Exactly. Food and sleep always helps. And yeah, like you were saying, I know, for example, the Silk Road mountain race is happening right now. And I know
Yeah.
like the place where there's the most amount of scratches is once they get into Narin, which is like the big town. Because no one scratches in the middle of nowhere because there's nowhere to leave, like you said. Obviously, it's a little different with maybe my kind of bike packing, but I think it holds true as well. And I also think, one thing that helps me, and I might have even said this last year, but it's like if you don't think too big and you just think like in checkpoints, it makes it less overwhelming. So like the times like where I maybe wanted to quit, it's when you're like, oh, I need to make it to Lebanon, and that's so far. But if I just go, oh, I need to make it to this town in a few days, you just focus on getting to the town, and then you get to the town, then you find the next thing to look forward to, And so breaking up a trip that way makes it, I think, more palatable, and you're less inclined to get overwhelmed and really want to quit. But I never seriously ever considered quitting, just because, like I said, I have all my friends and family, and I'm not like an Insta star, but I have enough Insta followers that are invested in what I'm doing that it's like I can't quit. Like I just can't quit. It's just not an option. So I never really considered it.
I mean, the thing is, I always think, Samer, if you did quit, I don't think people would judge you for it. I've often thought that before with people because I think we put pressure on ourselves that other people actually aren't pressuring you. Your family.
Yeah.
they wouldn't
wouldn't.
be
You're
mad
right.
at you. We're already proud of you. You know, that's how they're feeling. So, you know, when you had to break it down into, I just got to get to the next town. Were there days where you had to do multiple little mini milestones just to get through the day? Like, I need to get through. I need to get through this next 5 kilometers, and then I need to get through the next 5 kilometers, and
Yes, good question. First, real quick, I'm gonna say you're right. Like no one would have been disappointed in me, but I would have like been disappointed in myself, I think, and like always regretted it because at the end of the day, I am doing this trip like for me and to like prove to myself I could do it, and so it would. I don't think anyone would have been mad if I quit, but I think I would have always like been upset with myself. I think, but to answer your other question, I think sometimes I'm deliberate about that, but I think it just happens subconsciously too. You're like, all right, I'm gonna bike for an hour and a half and then have a break. But I think the times I'm more deliberate about it would be like when I'm in the outback, for example, and it's like, hey, there's a roadhouse here. I see that there's a turnoff with a little bit of a restroom here. And so those just become the natural points to look forward to in a day. It does depend where you are, but yeah, I think the places you are dictate like how you break up your days. In Thailand, like I said earlier, it's like I would just maybe bike an hour and a half and then find somewhere to drink and then keep going like that. But when you're in the desert, your next checkpoint that you think about mentally is like the next resupply. So it does depend where you are, but I definitely think you could break it down so little. Like even when there's wind, I'll put my Garmin on battery explore mode, battery save mode, so the screen goes black, and I'll just say,
I've done that to mine.
yeah,
It's
when
permanently
there's,
on that now.
yeah,
I love
oh,
it.
good.
I don't need to see the stats. If I want to
You're-
see them, I can touch the screen, but I don't need to.
So that's what I did in Saudi, and I would, every half hour like click it and to see, oh, did I do 5K, and then because yeah, it could be a mind. Am I allowed to swear? A mind fuck.
I'm allowing one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
to be
I get what
looking
you
at
mean.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be. And the other thing I want to know then is, it's funny, it must be just human nature to want to talk about extremes, but was Australia and Central Australia the place where you had the largest distance between resupply points, or were you more isolated, say, in Central Asia at times?
Good question. Well, real quick, I'll say about Australia, as someone who's never been there before, it was fascinating to bike through Australia because it really felt like Jurassic Park, especially, Melbourne to Adelaide before heading to Outback. Because every bug, every animal, every bird is like
Every
something.
kangaroo.
Every kangaroo is all stuff like I had never seen before. It was really
I
cool.
remember when you first saw your first kangaroo and you had it on a video, and I was like,
yeah, and then I had seen 10 more the next day. It's like, oh, this is pretty normal now.
Oh yeah, and then you see them every now and then you see them when you don't want to be seeing them. Like if you had to ride in the actually at the tail end of the day, either the early morning or early evening, being on a bike with kangaroos sort of hopping around isn't the greatest time of day to be riding.
Yeah.
Were you in magpie season, or did you miss magpie season?
When is magpie season?
Oh, you'd know. Or if you had to ask me that, then you missed it.
Well,
Trust me.
I never put.
Did you get swooped?
I kind of got swooped. And I met people who had the spikes on their head to avoid it.
Yeah, they don't work.
Yeah. But no, I never got injured. But I was there October, November, so I don't know if that's magpie season. Maybe the tail end.
Magpie season's now, so
okay. So
I'm
no,
recording
I
this
wasn't.
very late August, people. Just for context, I'm not sure when this run releases, but yeah, and it depends where in the country, because it starts earlier or later depending on where you are in the country.
Okay.
And typically goes for it's a good 2.5 months, I would say.
Okay, I might have caught the tail end, but I never got injured from them, which is good.
Favorite Australian bird while we're talking animals, because you would have come across a few interesting ones: kookaburras, cockatoo.
Green mohawks, cockatoos.
Oh no, cockatoos are white and they've got like a yellow mohawk.
That's what I'm thinking of, though. Cockatoos.
Oh yeah, a good old cocky.
They were all right.
They're all some cool looking birds, but they have a horrendous bird call.
They're around
your campsite. You're not sleeping.
You're right, actually. But yeah, Australia was cool. Like scorpions, koalas. I saw a brown snake my third day in Australia, and I was filming it, and then people responded to my story, and they're like, "Yo, that's a brown snake, the second most deadly venomous snake in the world. You should chill." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with snakes in Australia, if people are getting bitten, more often than not, it's because they're trying to catch or kill the snake. If you see the snake and just leave it alone, you'll be fine.
So yeah, I'm lucky nothing happened there. But your original question was the longest distances between resupply.
Yeah.
Let me think. Yeah, there's a couple that were similar. I think the most on the Stewart Highway is 200 kilometers. So that would have been up there. There was a stretch in the Gobi Desert part of China where I had 220, I think. So that might have been a little more. And then in terms of remoteness, like bigger distance, like in terms of kilometers, it wasn't a biggest distance to resupply. But maybe in terms of time, it was like a day and a half with nothing was the beginning of the Bartang Valley until you get to the first small village where I wrote in that guest book that Rebecca mentioned. But there, at least, I had water because you're biking along a river. But in the outback, I carried maybe, I mean, not even that much, like 8 liters, 10 liters, or 10 liters somewhere on the Udnadada track, actually.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the Udnadada track?
I did.
Just, I'm trying to think. Is it Udnadada was really windy for you, wasn't it? And is Udnadada really corrugated as well?
Yeah, so it was more corrugated and windy. So I only did like half of it, and then I bailed early and went on a road to Coober Pedy.
The underground town.
Exactly, and I slept in a cave, which was awesome. But one thing I did a bunch on the Stewart Highway is I would get to a roadhouse and I would buy one of those like 10-liter water boxes, and I would wait for a car to show up, and I would give that 10-liter box to a car, and I would say, "Hey, can you leave it at this spot?" Because along the Stewart Highway, there's roadhouses every 150K probably on average, sometimes less, sometimes more. But you have a ton of those turnoffs with like picnic tables and some shade. So if I knew I wasn't going to get to like a roadhouse, I would tell them, "Can you leave it at this rest area?"
That's a good little hack.
I know. So I would show up at night. I'd have 10 liters of water for dinner, for breakfast, and to start the day. So that was a nice little hack. I can recommend that to others. I'm sure others have done similar stuff.
I'm sure you had a few people hand you water or stuff.
So many. Yeah, so many. Australians were great. Everyone's got a little ute with a little fridge. They'd give me beer sometimes.
I was going to say, did you have a nice coldie?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, you get hospitality everywhere, but I definitely felt the love in Australia for sure.
Yeah. What about that sort of very unique Australian landscape, the red earth of the outback? How did you find that?
That was also interesting. I mean, yeah, one of the highlights of Australia was Uluru. Is that considered the red? I mean, that's the middle of the outback. So that was pretty cool. I mean, have you been?
I haven't. I have travelled there only through stories, and I will definitely go myself one day. It's an impressive sight that we as Australians should be proud of as well.
Yes, and pictures don't even do it justice because like it's cool when you get there, but then you walk around Uluru and like each angle you're walking from, it looks like a different rock. So that was really cool.
Actually, I want to get your opinion on this. I recently interviewed an awesome bike traveller who's making her way through Central Australia at the moment, Laura Bastioli. Hey, Laura, you are awesome. Goes by the Insta handle of Basti on the Move.
Oh, I'm going to need to follow her.
Oh, definitely give her a follow. She's brilliant. And she was saying with Uluru, she found she was mesmerised the most by it when she first started approaching it, like seeing it in the distance on the horizon.
Yeah.
And she spent 4 days at Uluru. She says, of course, I loved seeing it. It was amazing to be there. But she felt that when she was there, it was so touristy that the special moments weren't there as well. How about you? Can you relate to that side of things?
It's tough for me to relate too much because what I did, because Uluru is like a 150K in and out from the main road. So what I did is I left my bike at the roadhouse at the turnoff, and I hitchhiked. I hitchhiked with a lovely mother-daughter combo. That was actually funny. They passed me, and then I saw the car stop, and I could tell they stopped to like talk about whether they should take me or not. And like 5 minutes later, the car came back one more time, and they went past me and stopped. And then finally they came, and I was like, "Hey, like I promise I'm not a serial killer." They're like, "Yeah, like we were stopped a bunch. You probably saw us. Like we were debating whether we should take you or not." So they picked me up, and I arrived by car. So I didn't maybe have the same experience as her, but I do know as we were driving to Uluru, you see a big rock in the distance, and you think it's Uluru.
Oh, that's Fullaroo.
Uluru. Uluru, exactly. I fell for
Yeah.
that. It was Fularoo. And then you get closer and you see actual Uluru. That's
Yeah, I'm
funny.
trying
So
to
you've
remember
heard
what
of
the name of
Fularoo.
Fularoo is.
Yeah. I forget, but you know what I'm talking about then.
I have seen Fularoo, and I can understand why people would think it is
Yeah,
that.
it's massive too. So
It reminds me of when I first went to Chamonix and I thought I was looking at Mont Blanc, and I certainly wasn't.
that's funny. Yeah.
Slightly
That's
different,
funny.
slightly different. Something there, Samer. You were talking, just even those sort of instances where you're catching a lift with, a mother and a daughter or whatever, or two friends or whatever. A journey that's taken solo like this, and you have some time where maybe you're riding with someone like Brian, so you've got a few days consecutively with someone.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of time where you are meeting new people every day, but you're really only having very basic sort of interactions. Like, you might have deep interactions, but you're only ever going to see them that day or for a
Yeah.
few minutes, or that's it. They're just in and out of your life. They were a great moment and you're very thankful for them, but then that's it. Is that a hard aspect to deal with on a journey like that? I know we're at a stage in this world where we are so connected and we have the ability to make a phone call or an email or or WhatsApp message or something with people that we love and are near and dear to us. But when you are on your own for months on end and not having deep connections with your community and whatever that is for you, how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I think, sometimes it could be tiring to like meet so many people and know that you're leaving. So sometimes, and oftentimes you're having the same conversation with some people. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, I like it more than I dislike it because, like I alluded to earlier, like part of what's awesome, or maybe this is just me, but part of why I love bike traveling too is like you sort of do feel like a rock star because like everywhere you get stopped and everywhere people are curious and taking interest in
Who are
you.
you? Where are you from? Where are
Yeah,
you
yeah. So
going?
like
Why are you
sometimes you're
here?
tired and you like are tired of answering the same questions, but more
Yeah.
often than not, it's like I'm grateful that people are stopping and they're looking out for me, and that's one way, you don't feel alone. And that's like one way you stay sane is by talking with people you meet and engaging, and that's sort of how you get a little high, just getting
Mm.
getting human
Yep.
connection again.
Yeah.
I think obviously in the era of cell phones, you could debate the negative or the positives of social media and cell phones,
Mm.
but it does help you stay connected with, your family and friends and community in a way, even while you're abroad. And, I guess something that's new on this trip is like I met my girlfriend in Thailand. She's traveling with her backpack, but we spoke almost every day for, you know, 30 minutes or maybe more sometimes. Or even
Yeah.
when I was riding, sometimes I would be talking to her. So that was a cool way to stay connected to people you love while also doing my own thing. But yeah, it could be hard sometimes, like people invite you to their home and it's like, I want to go, but it's like 20-kilometer off the main road and
Mm.
it might turn into a 3-day thing. And I think everyone has their own travel styles and some people were more inclined to be like, yes, I'm down for this side quest. But I think I alluded to earlier, I like to keep momentum and like I love engaging with people I meet, but I also try to like, I want it to be like sort of convenient too, like in a way if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I find my times to want like I think if I'm feeling lonely, I'll lean into connection, and if I'm feeling motivated and strong and like trying to tackle distance, then I'll lean into the biking. And so I think I
Mm.
just kind of subconsciously pick my moments with that. I think.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you need to follow what you've done up with something else. I sort of feel like you will. I'm not sure what. And it doesn't have to be of a huge magnitude. But do you think you would ever change the style that you're riding with? Like, you've done the round the world thing.
Yeah.
And you
It's a
and you,
good
you mentioned
question.
before we press record that there's sections of the world map that you haven't gone through. But are there places actually this is a 2-point question. Do you think you would change the style? As in maybe not try be a bit different to what you did in this way. So
Yeah.
take the detours and stuff like that. And the second thing is, would you actually be inclined to actually go somewhere that you did go through quickly, but that you really want to go and explore an area a little bit more?
Okay, good questions. So I am kind of trying to figure out what my life post these trips looks like.
Hmm.
Some things I've thought about are like tackling, I don't really know what my life looks like now, but tackling countries by country. So like I didn't go to Mongolia, so like I'll go to Mongolia and like do Mongolia thoroughly.
You need to hit up Harvey and Rebecca and Claire because
I know I'm
they've all done
following them there
Mongolia.
now. So there's so many countries: Mongolia, Japan, New Zealand, Sri Lanka. A bunch of countries that I passed by in Asia but didn't do. And again, I
Mm.
could go through the whole world. There's tons of places I didn't go, obviously. And I think
Mm.
if I were to do something like that, then I'm more inclined to like slow down and really discover the country
Yeah, and see it
because
deeply. Yep,
you
yep,
know what I
yep.
mean? But also on these
Mm-hmm.
past trips, in my mind, I'm breaking it up into sections, but I always have like the big goal or destination in my mind that I feel like I'm working towards. And I think that has helped me in the past, like give purpose to my trips,
Mm.
because although I am exploring and traveling through different countries, I do feel like there's a goal and that helps give meaning to my trip. But I think, yeah, I might try a different approach later in life where I don't have years at a time to bike, where it might be a couple months a year.
Yeah, mini adventures.
So that's one thing I've thought about. One thing I've also thought about is like there are gaps in the world map that I'd like to tackle, and especially with me not being able to go to Iran this trip, it could be cool to go North Cape, Eastern Europe, Turkey,
Mm.
Iran, and then back to Afghanistan and end in Kabul. Because I was in Afghanistan, but I went from the Tajik border into Pakistan instead of going west towards Iran, which was my original plan. So that's one option. Or I could do Cape to Cape from Europe to South Africa, doing Eastern Europe and
East
East
Africa.
Africa. But
Yeah.
With Sudan currently closed, that's not feasible these days.
No.
So there's stuff out there. Russia, I haven't been, and that's probably not the best time. Canada, Alaska. So there's huge gaps on like the Earth that I
The
obviously haven't
west coast
been.
of Australia, the east
West
coast
Coast,
of
exactly.
Australia,
Australia is its
the
own
whole
world in itself.
circumference.
Brazil and East South America. So there's like lots of ideas I have, but I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to like jump on the bike again for a year. I say that now, 2 weeks of rest now, but who knows in a month where my head will be at.
Can I ask, because you have done 3 long journeys with little mini gaps in between, and you are 2 weeks post finishing a journey, and I feel it takes some time for it to actually sink in what you have done, and for every person that's different how long it takes. But there's also completing a goal has a huge satisfaction to it, but it can be a double-edged sword where you don't have that goal. And so you're seeking
100%.
for something, and the whole post adventure blues cycle hits. Is that something that's impacted you before, Sama? Or how do you deal with that side of things? Listeners, I want to give a huge shout out to Zerali, who are supporting Seek Travel Ride. I'm honestly stoked to be working with them because they are an Aussie company doing outdoor gear right. Everything they make is designed by people who actually spend time adventuring outdoors, so they get what works and what doesn't. What I really love is how environmentally conscious they are as a company. They are designing products thinking about their environmental impact. They're using both sustainable and ethical materials to create gear that will last. I absolutely love their line of merino products. They're brilliant, lightweight, breathable. You wear it for days, you don't get smelly. And trust me, when you're out on the road or a trail for a few days at a time on a bike adventure, not feeling like you're smelly wearing the same t-shirt is a big plus. They don't just make clothing though, they also have tents, they have sleep mats, they make trail shoes, hats, everything. So if you are in the market for some of that outdoor type equipment, please hit up the affiliate link in the show notes. And another big monumental thank you to Zerali for supporting the show. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Well, I think when I was on that first trip and I was getting towards the end in Patagonia, getting towards Ushuaia, at that point I had already made up my mind that I was going to do like Africa and Europe. So mentally, when I went home, it helped because I already had that next goal to look forward to. And then when I was in Europe and I was finishing my trip in South Africa last year, I in my head also knew I was like, all right, I'm going to do Australia and Asia next. So like ending wasn't as, I don't know, as scary. This ending was a bit more scary because like I don't have that next big trip necessarily lined up in my head, and it's more like what am I going to do with life? These first 2 weeks have been pretty chill. Like I'm just with family eating. My girlfriend flew to Lebanon, so she's here with me, and I'm showing her around. So I've been like busy enough where I haven't really had to answer the big questions yet.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, in the immediate future, I think before I start planning anything big or decide what I'm even going to do, I do want to, like, sort of sink my teeth into some sort of project that'll encapsulate my last 3 years. Whether I think I'm still deciding whether it's going to be like a traditional book or like photos with some writing, or
Mm.
or more immediately, I am working on a short film with Bomb Track, who my bike is Bomb Track.
They make some awesome films, so I'm excited
Yeah,
for that.
hopefully, like the last 2 days of my trip, like as I entered Lebanon, I had a couple people following me with cameras, and so like I think we got really cool footage, and we sat down and interviewed too, and it'd be cool to have something. I think in the next few weeks on that, like a short film. So I don't know. In the near future, I'd like to organize some of what I've done, but I don't have answers on the big picture yet. Like, do I want to? You asked also how my style of travel might change. Like, one thing I've thought about is, should I sign up for an ultra race? And that gives me a goal and something to work towards. That could fill a void, but that also I think will require training. Like, I went biking last week with like on a road bike with my friends in Lebanon, and I literally like couldn't. I got dropped on every climb.
It's a different fitness.
Exactly,
You have
it's a
endurance, but
different
do you know
fitness
what? But do
completely.
you know what? Endurance is what you need for an ultra.
Exactly. I know, but so it's different.
And can I just say, I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few previous guests who have done long tours like yourself, one being Jacob Ashton and the other being Rob McLennan, who have both turned themselves into ultra races. So maybe there's a little theme here.
So yeah, there's something.
We've mentioned her name a few times, Claire White. Hi, Claire. Hello again. Claire's sort of thinking in her mind of maybe looking at taking an ultra on as well. So I wonder if it is just that want for a goal that can be achieved when potentially with the balance of what we would put in inverted commas a normal life. Yeah,
Yeah.
like what can I achieve while still being settled in one place, maybe with a job that I've got to go to as well?
Yeah, yeah. I think like you said, the having the race or ultra is I'm not necessarily interested in like torturing myself and not sleeping all night and racing.
Mm,
But I do think like having a goal and working towards it is like helps for your mental health just in life, having goals
yeah.
and tackling them. So I think that would be my main draw to ultra. But I think I'm also trying to figure out like, I don't think I could enter a traditional job anymore. Like I just can't do it.
Mm,
So I'm trying to figure out the best way to like leverage my experiences into something, whether it's like
yeah.
guiding others on tours or maybe
Mm,
giving talks or something like that. But I'd
yeah,
love
yeah,
to
yeah.
inspire others to, take the first step because like I tell people all the time, like I wasn't never like an elite athlete or anything. I just was like a regular dude who got sick of his job and just like started biking. And so like if I could do it, why can't anyone else do it? And so I think, if I could shift my goals towards inspiring others, but the thing is that's like a little harder to measure. So, you know,
Mm.
I don't know. I'm still having all these thoughts like what should I
Well, you know
do?
what? I'll help you measure bits of it because I always get listeners get in touch with me saying, I've listened to this episode and it's inspired me to do that. So when I do for your
Okay.
episode, Samer, I'll let you know. And then you'll
Okay,
know for
cool.
sure that you've been inspiring others. So listeners, if
Yeah.
you listen to this episode and you're inspired, let me know and I'll let Samer know.
Yeah, yeah, cool. But yeah, and like and again, like when I left for this trip, it was for me, like for selfish reasons. But as I've gone longer and longer, I get messages every once in a while from people who are like, "Hey, like you don't know me, but I've been following your trip, and like
Hmm.
I started bike, like And so when I read messages like that, it does make me happy, and it's almost like a positivity cycle. Like you might inspire someone, and then they tell you inspired them, and it like makes me want to keep going and inspire more.
Oh my gosh, I had that happen with this podcast just yesterday. How do I say this? the podcast has gotten to the stage where if I wanted to, I wouldn't need to be the person choosing guests because I have a lot of people contact me, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And I try and fit people in as much as I can. But every now and then I do reach out to people that I want to feature as guests because I'm the host. So I also want to choose who I'm interviewing, right? And it's who I'm interested in too. And I touched base with someone yesterday about something, and then their response was exactly that, was, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've been listening to your show. I've been taking so much inspiration, blah, blah, blah. And it's that you don't realize what you're doing. And then when someone tells you it, it's like, whoa, it's like injected into my veins. Like, it's almost like an endorphin drug, isn't it?
I agree. It's like, obviously you shouldn't be doing what you're doing for the opinion of others,
No.
but I'd be lying if I said like it doesn't feel good to like get people, acknowledging or reacting positively to what you're doing. So
Yeah, and it's awesome to know that you're inspiring people to take some cool journeys on. I love that part about it. Like, I don't know, would I feel so great if I was inspiring people to, I don't know, climb a corporate ladder or something like that? Different sort of thing, right? But yeah, you do feel like the effort that you're putting in is being seen by others. Like there is that, I don't know if it's a touch of ego. I guess there'd have to be.
it's a touch of ego, I think. It's a touch of it.
But it's pretty cool too, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I was saying before, like part of why I like biking is because you feel like a rock star, right? It's like there's an ego thing there. Like I like to be seen maybe, or like
Can
to
I
feel
just say,
special, if I may say.
Samer, if you feel like a rock star, just think of all the awesome solo female travelers and how they feel, because they really are the odd ones out whenever they
They're
turn up
even
somewhere,
bigger,
right?
100%, 100%. And then I should say too, like about inspiring, I was inspired by so many people before me too. And so many people when I was preparing for my trip or even along the trip, I've DM'd like many like what you would call bike influencers and other bike racers and bike travelers. And I feel like the community is so helpful both ways. And I've gotten so many good responses and help from other people that it's like it's just such a good community that you want to share, you want to help others, and like you said, I've met so many people along the road. It's like when you meet another cyclist, there's like an automatic bond there. So I think it's a
Yeah,
special
fast
community.
friendships. Fast
Yeah.
friendships get made with fellow bike travelers. It's funny because it's through this show, I've also seen the other side where people have become sort of insta famous just through doing what they set out to do. And then I've seen the side where they've been turned, or not, no one's forced into this, but they've become influencers unwittingly. And then
Yeah.
there is the burnout associated with having to be an influencer. Have you come across that as well? Because I've certainly seen it with many people, a lot more recently as well. And it's almost like you can tell it's happening because all of a sudden there's posts saying, sorry, I haven't posted in a while. I've got big plans. Oh, I'm going to tell you about my big plan soon. Don't drop off. Oh, I'm just taking time off. And it's like they have to make excuses for themselves because they're just trying to be normal, but they can't take time out because now they've become an influencer.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. I mean, I can't say like I've gone mega viral, so I'm not like tired of like, I just have done my own thing. But I did like when I started in Australia this time around, I did try like the daily vlogs, which I
Oh my
know,
gosh, they're so
yes,
hard. Like,
yeah,
how hard
well,
was
so I
that? I
saw
want to know how
firsthand.
hard that was. Oh
It's
my
hard.
gosh.
Well,
Yeah,
so
and
I
you know
follow
what?
so many people doing it, and it's so
I
cool. But
I personally cannot wait for that daily vlog thing to turn into something new because everyone is doing it. It's like, this is day 372 of
yeah,
doing this. This is day
yeah,
27. This is what I had for breakfast. And this is where I woke
yeah.
up. And now I'm going here. Oh, wow. I had to stop at a red light. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
literally, literally. So, I think it is a cool way to show people your daily grind. But like, after biking 8 hours and eating dinner and setting up your tent, I would be
Having to
like
put a
in the middle
reel
of the
together.
outback editing like a 360 camera for an hour and a half every night. You know what I mean? And it was cool. And it's cool to have it to look back on, like those daily vlogs for yourself, even, not even for others. But it
Hmm.
is a lot of work every day. And it's like, do you want to be living the adventure or do you want to like be sharing your adventure?
Yeah.
It almost takes away from living it sometimes because I would be like, for example, let me think. I'd be, you could be at a roadhouse having dinner and having conversation with someone, and then it's like, all right, like I need to finish this dinner and like hurry back to my tent. so I have time to do the vlog, and I'm not going to bed at midnight because I still need to bike again a full day tomorrow, right? So the moment it starts like
impeding on the
impeding on what you want to do, I think it's not worth it. And then once you fall behind, it's game over. So but that's why once I did it for 2 months, I did it for 2 months until I got to like almost Thailand. And then so I have respect for people who do it, and it's cool, and like, but it's so hard, really. It's hard.
It would be.
So I can see why burnout comes if that's how you're doing it every day.
Okay, I'm going to change tact on questions here. Totally different to burnout. I want to talk about security and safety and perceptions of safety v reality. So we touched on the fact that there were a few countries where you had enforced police escorts.
Yeah.
Because of perceived threats to your safety, were they not there? And then you've also conversely been to countries where, as a Westerner, we would feel that there would be a high risk of being safe, but you've travelled there. You know, if we talk about places like Afghanistan, potentially Syria as well. I want you to tell me about both sides of those equations. Like, what was it like travelling? Like, and I realise, like, when I speak about Afghanistan, it's a hard question for me to ask you because how would I be in Afghanistan as a woman as opposed to you as a man? And as a man, you've experienced, I guess, one side of Afghani people because there's just no interaction possible, I'm imagining, with the women in Afghanistan as well. But from a security perspective, what was it like to travel to these places? And then my second part of the question is, what's it like when you're in a place that everything feels fine, but you've got this police escort as well?
Yeah, okay. Two-part question. So yeah, Afghanistan, from again, like you said, I think it is worth highlighting what you said. As a man, my experience would be totally different than yours. But as a man, as a white man traveling through a white, brown, whatever, I don't really know what I am, traveling through Afghanistan, I felt super safe. I will say Afghanistan isn't that used to tourists. So like the first day I was wearing like Western attire, and I think I bought the traditional Afghan attire that first day, and that helped like blend in a good amount. But that has nothing to do with my safety. I felt safe all the time. You have checkpoints every 50 kilometers, and the Taliban would just ask my passport, ask where I'm from. And I was in Afghanistan on my Lebanese, but I would tell them I'm Lebanese American, and I never had issues telling people I'm American. Sometimes they would ask what like religion I was, and I would either just say I'm not religious, or I would like make a joke and say like the bike is my religion, and like they would sort of laugh if they got that.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had a positive experience, but you're right. Like, I didn't interact with a single woman in Afghanistan, or even almost all of Pakistan. I didn't interact with women. Like in the big cities in Pakistan, there's more like it's more chill. But like, just because you cross from Afghanistan to Pakistan doesn't mean things change right away. I think I'm not like a geopolitical expert, but obviously, women's rights is a huge issue in Afghanistan. I don't necessarily know if it's just because of the Taliban. I think it's also cultural for the region. Like Pakistan is the same. I didn't see any woman, and if I did, they were fully covered, like full face.
That must be hard. Like, well, I know there's an element of I'm respectful of where I am, and you have no control of what the situation is there. But that's also got to be really hard. I imagine it's really hard.
It is really hard in the sense that, yeah, I mean, it is because, like, the world is half man and half woman. And so when you go, like, your whole
You're
life.
seeing half of the world, yeah.
Half the world, yeah, And so once you leave Central Asia, like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then I took a flight to Oman, UAE, Saudi, Jordan, until like Lebanon, I didn't have an interaction with a woman probably. I mean, I'm exaggerating. Like I did
no,
little more.
But also, yes and no in a way.
Yes and no. So it was interesting. Like,
did you see many other Westerners in your time in those areas?
Afghanistan, Pakistan, not a single other Westerner in my time there. In the Gulf countries, yes, but like there's a lot of expats living there, and
and in compound sort of lifestyle.
Kind of. So I saw some people, and I don't know, but also it's interesting. Like when I was in North Pakistan and parts of Afghanistan, Like I had my beard growing a little more, and I was wearing local attire. So that's why I said I could almost blend in. People thought I was Pashto. They thought I was from the North Pakistan region. So they would speak to me in the local language, and I would not be able to respond. So
That'd be
I
hard.
think, yeah, I think so. That's why once I had, so to go to your second part of your question, once I was in the Sindh region in Pakistan, that's when they started following me. They're from this,
Oh, the
and
police
they said for my
escorts. I've heard of
security.
this in Pakistan before.
Yeah, but I kept telling them like, "Hey guys, like if you weren't with me, I blend in. You guys being with me like brings attention to me." That's the argument I tried making to them, but they're like, "No, they're I mean, they're just doing their job, so it's tough to get mad at them." But it was frustrating times where it's like it could like, when you're interacting with locals, it could stop the authenticity of your interaction when there's a pickup with four guys with machine guns in the back of the truck behind me.
Gosh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why it was a little frustrating. But yeah, and then back to the woman thing too. It's like you go to parts of the world where I feel like women run the whole country. Like especially in West Africa, I feel like women run everything there. And then you go to parts of the world where you don't even see women. So it's like, it is, I don't know how to reconcile it. It's not nothing we're used to.
Yeah, it's very different, isn't it? And it's not what we're used to. It's probably not what we believe in.
Yep.
I wouldn't know how to reconcile it. I haven't lived it. I've observed it through other guests before. Were the police escorts very different in different countries? So, in Pakistan you had them, and then obviously in Saudi you had them. Were there different approaches there? Like, was one sort of allowing you to, well, you go about your day and we're just following you, or were there any insistent on not even letting you ride at times?
Let me think. There was one day in Pakistan where they were like, "Hey, there's a national holiday tomorrow. Like, you can't bike." And I was like, "Okay, okay." But I was like, "What? No." And I just left the morning without telling them. And then the next day they caught up with me and I wasn't in trouble. So again, it shows like I didn't really need an escort. But they were pretty chill in Pakistan. Like every maybe 30K they would switch, and at first I would have to stop and like take a picture with each shift, and it was kind of annoying. But by the end, I was just like not stopping. I was waving them on. I was like not stopping. I would tell them I'm not stopping. I was like take a picture while I'm riding, and we sort of got in a rhythm. So it worked out in Saudi, and you know, for what it's worth, in Pakistan there have been incidents with foreign tourists in the last 10, 15 years. So I mean, like, while although I felt safe, like I could see why the government wants to insist on it. But in Saudi, it was like already one of the safest countries in the world. And them following me for my security, I was like, you guys, there's no one in the desert right now. Like, what's gonna happen? So it was just more funny to me. And by the end, I was just using it to my advantage in Saudi, where instead of carrying like 8 liters of water, I just carried like 2 liters, and I bought water and put it in the car with the police guys.
God, I'd be tempted to give them all my bikepacking bags and
Yeah,
panniers
I mean,
too.
I would, I'd be tempted. In a couple days on the really crazy wind, it was mostly headwinds every day, but some days it was like really roaring. I like explained to them the concept of drafting, and I was like, "Yo, just hit cruise control at 20, 22 kilometers an hour, and I'll just ride behind you." So I did that a couple times. So
Oh, that's handy. That
so
is
yeah, I used it
definitely
to my
handy.
advantage by the end in Saudi. But yeah, I do think I am respective of the laws. Like if that's the law, it is what it is. But yeah, like when you're so used to traveling alone, and even if the cop is just behind you not doing anything, it's just like I feel like I'm not free, even though I am. But like, that was something new for me. I hadn't dealt with that uh, ever really. Even in China, where you hear stories of people getting stopped from riding in certain areas, I was able to bike 100% of China. Like I didn't have to skip any sections. I think some of it I got lucky. Like I passed areas in hindsight. I found out you're not allowed to go. Yeah, it worked out, and it is what it is. So I think obviously the biggest disappointment of the trip was not going through Iran. I was so excited, but again, it's hard to. I mean, it's life. Yeah, like it's hard to. And the thing is, here's the thing: I probably could have gone into Iran with my Lebanese passport, but there was so much going on, and I don't know how much you followed, but there's news of a couple cyclists that are there now, like still detained.
Yeah, there's an Irish cyclist that's I think it was an
Irish, I
Irish
think a French
cyclist.
guy, and then there was
There's a
French
couple of
French
Brits
couple
on
from the.
motorbikes as
So
well,
exactly, I hear
and
all
a
this.
young French guy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard all this, and maybe if I was like older and didn't have my family, I would have been like, send it. But I just, yeah, it wasn't worth it, I guess. So another time, though, another time.
I think the way that I feel about that is even if the chances are more likely that you would be fine, I
Yeah.
feel like, but if you're not, you're really not. Like
Yeah.
that's how I view it. Like if things
Yeah.
were to go awry here because of that reason, they're going to go really bad.
Yeah. No, you're
Mm.
right. And the risk with
Mm.
me is even if I entered with my Lebanese visa free, I have like the American passport burning a hole in my bag. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. So if you get stopped and searched, then they're
it
like,
makes me that much more likely to look like a spy, you know? So those were the things I was thinking about. But I was so close to just saying like, fuck it, I'm going to Iran, like everything's gonna be fine. Which has been my mentality basically the whole trip. Like it's gonna work out, like what's gonna happen? But I guess I did draw the line with the current political situation.
I'm sure your family was happy you drew the line.
Yeah, they were the ones. And like even like I'll tell you the extent I went to try to get to Iran. We in Lebanon obviously has strong ties to Iran. So like I worked some connections in Lebanon who knew people in Iran high up and they were like, "Yeah, like we just can't guarantee his safety now. Like he shouldn't go." So I was like, "All right, all right."
Yeah, no, yeah.
And also, like when people are going through war in a country, the last of their concern is some like tourist who's
Someone
trying to like
biking, yeah.
frolic through with his bike, you know. So it puts things in perspective too. Like it's not all about me. People are getting bombed. So
What a horrendous state of the world we live in at the moment with all of that happening at the moment too, and has been happening as you said. I think since the second leg of your big
yeah,
trip,
yeah. When I
which
started in
is
Europe, exactly. So yeah, and then you asked about Syria. I mean, Syria, I only biked through in one day from the Jordan border to the Lebanese. It was short, but like I felt so much love in my one day because they were so curious to see me there. And yeah, like I think Syria is interesting because they were for the last 15 years like no tourists were really going. So when they start seeing tourists, the locals are super excited. So yeah, I'd love to go back to Syria, but I rushed through because I had like all my family waiting for me in Lebanon. I was motivated to finish. So yeah, I'll have to go back. Maybe add that to the list for more places to discover. North Syria, and yeah, I think the whole Middle East is like if it wasn't for all the geopolitical stuff, would be like such an awesome tour to do. Like Beirut, Syria, Jordan, Saudi, loop back up Kuwait, Kurdistan, Turkey, then loop back to Beirut. Like that would be an awesome loop.
oh my god, and I'm mesmerized by the food.
Yeah, exactly. Food and even Saudi. Like I know I didn't sell it well because I just biked on a straight line in the desert in in the heat in the summer. But if you went in the summer and or in the winter and did it like an appropriate like loop through the south and other parts, there's so much to discover there too. You know, it's not
And the
just a
west
desert.
with all the mountains too,
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
west
There's
of things.
mountains and I've followed some other travelers who have gone and showcased that side. So I think there's
Actually,
so much to
listeners, if
see.
you want to see the mountains showcase on that side, I've done an episode with Pete Gostelow.
Oh
I'll link it
yes.
in the show notes, and you can learn all about it from there as well. But I've got to say, were there times where you sort of had to, how do I want to say it? Were there times where you sort of had to tell yourself, what on earth is happening? Like, where am I? What am I doing? Like, unexpected things. And I'm not talking safety, just like crazy things like you couldn't predict. I can't believe I'm dealing with this.
Oh man, yes, but let me think of one. I mean, I know whatever you described is like all the time. Hmm.
The good questions take a lot of thinking from everyone, so you're not unique in this.
Oh, okay. I just thought of a good one. So I'm in Morocco, entering the High Atlas, and I'm actually with a German traveler. So we're together at this like it's like a shack in the wall hotel at the top, like towards the top of the mountain, and we're chilling with the guy. We're eating local food, smoking local hash. It's all good vibes. And then the guy from the town below comes up in the middle of like 10 p.m. He comes up to ask for our ID, and he's taking a picture. He's not able to get the lighting right, so he starts writing it by hand. And for like 5 minutes, this guy is trying to spell Massachusetts, which is the state I'm from in the US.
I don't think I could. I
Yeah,
think it'd
no, I
take me
know. But
15
so we're
minutes to
going
try.
back and forth while he's trying to handwrite Massachusetts. You know, he's speaking Berber. It's dark. He took a 30-minute motorcycle ride up the mountain from the village just to do this. I'm like, all right, why do you need this? He couldn't get the photo right, and he's trying to spell Massachusetts. So me and Jonas, who's a German traveler I was with at the time, had a good laugh of that at the time. That was good. So that's one that just springs up. You know, I was in Guinea once, and I actually filmed this. It's on my Instagram somewhere if you go back far enough on my reels. But, you know, I'm just biking, and some guy in a plainclothes shirt stops me, and he's like, "I'm police. You need to come with me." And I'm like, "No, you're not police." But some the villagers walk by, and I'm like, "Is that police?" They're like, "Yes." So I go back to the police station with this guy. He takes my passport, and I'm pretty sure, or I know at this point, he's hammered. Like I could smell the vodka on his breath. And so, but I wasn't threatened by him. He was just like some drunk dude, like mumbling. Like I knew I was gonna be fine, but it was also like, what is going on? I'm in some shack. It's hot. This guy's like, I don't know what he wants. Like he's not making sense. Like what is going on right now? So yeah, I mean that happens. Yeah, and then in China, basically every night I'm trying to get into a hotel is a whole faff because you get to the hotel. Sometimes they know how to register you, sometimes they don't. And then you need to go to the police officers, and then you give them your name and whatever. And then you're sitting there at a fireplace with them for a bit. And then 20 minutes later, maybe you get approval. And you're just sitting there like, all this just for me to, get in the room. So, but you got to just roll with the punch-ins and laugh at it, honestly. So, yeah, I feel like the situation you described where you're like, what is going on is like a near daily, not daily, but a frequent occurrence in the life of a bike traveler, I would say.
Yeah, you're doing abnormal things.
And you're naturally in weird situations, so
Yeah, internationally in weird situations,
yeah.
exactly. Can I ask, it's normal when we're planning journeys to, exotic, international, different locations that even though someone like you, when we've spoken about it a lot, where you're breaking things down into milestones and achievable goals each day, small picture, not big picture, sometimes you can look at the big picture and go, I can't wait to be there. What place, and whether it's from your recent trip or anywhere in the last 3 years, do you reflect back on and go, oh wow, that place was special. That exceeded expectations. It wasn't even on my radar. And that's a hard question for someone who's travelled 73,000 kilometres across 6 continents. But what places have really left you awestruck?
Okay, good question. Well, I mentioned China earlier, so shout out China, but I won't dive too deep again into China. I'll say a place that really surprised me is Morocco isn't really underrated. Like people know about Morocco. So, but I love Morocco, and then because you have mountains, you have good food, you have desert, you have ocean, you have all these historic cities to discover, you have a rich culture, people are friendly. Like it checks every box. And then what I loved really, what was more a surprise though, is Western Sahara, Mauritania, like just the whole Sahara area was like a really cool section of biking. And I think it obviously helps that I went from north to south because you have an
So you had a
amazing tailwind.
stonking
Exactly.
tailwind.
But still, that part like remains like I just have great memories of like biking the Sahara, flying down through the sand, and yeah, having chai. And then I did the iron ore train when I was in Mauritania. So that whole chapter, kind of like Morocco all the way to Senegal, was one of my favorite sections of road I've ever done, I'd say. Other parts that I loved,
Mm.
I mean, I'm saying a country, but like Argentina is awesome. I'd love to go back. And for similar reasons as Morocco, like it has everything. And those are the countries I love the most. It's like you have Patagonia and snowy peaks, but then you also have desert in the north, and then you also have coast with cities in Buenos Aires. And then you have awesome food and it's pretty cheap and like people are so friendly and women are beautiful, people are beautiful. Like it's just like every box is checked there too. So those tend to be the countries where there's a bit of variety and good food, and those are the ones that stick out with you. And then I mean I know I talked about it in length last time, so we don't need to hash it out again. But Peru is still like remains like epic in my mind, and I'll definitely go back there.
Well, I want to ask, because I can get asked superficial questions every now and then. The mountains in the Andes compared to the mountains in the Pamirs, how do they each stack up?
Good question. Well, huh. Honestly, like kind of similar at times. Like you're at similar elevations, 4,000 meters plus or minus a little sometimes. I think I would say I like the food better at the Andes. Central Asia, especially on the Pamir, like isn't great food, and people are known to get a little bit food poisoned there. And I got a little sick one of the days. Nothing serious though. Uh, and I guess one thing I would say is the Pamirs was awesome, and it was remote at times, especially on the Bartang. But you actually end up meeting so many other bike travelers, and maybe it was just at the start of the season, and I think that's a good thing. It was awesome for me, especially because I was going the only one going the other way, so like everyone was excited to see me.
Yeah, well, I was actually thinking this same because I wonder because you're heading east to
Yeah,
west, it feels like interviewing people on this show who've done the premieres. I feel like overwhelmingly people are heading west to east.
100%. Yeah,
That obviously the direction that you were traveling is not the common direction of travel. Do you think?
No,
Like it's
correct.
not that
You're
people
correct in saying
don't.
that.
It's not that people don't go east to west, but more often than not, they're going the other way, right?
Correct. Yeah, most are going the other way. Exactly. So it's like very much a social thing. Like people leaving from west to east are like meeting people. They're biking with some people, then they meet other people, and it seems more social. I guess my way, I was sort of a lone wolf, like crossing across all the groups, which was cool though, because I was craving connection after like the Bartang with no one. But I guess I would say I felt like a little smaller in Peru in the Andes. Didn't see as many people, and it felt like bigger, crazier in a way. But I say that, but maybe I'm discounting the Pamirs too, because like I don't know, the mountains are also high, so it's hard to say.
It's just how you felt and what you remember of it, right? Because
Yeah,
while I'm
exactly.
going superficial, I'll go the other way. Favorite desert, favorite beach.
Okay. Oh, good question. And real quick on the other one, like Peru is also much bigger than the Pamir. So I did like Osh to Saritas or Osh to Dushanbe in I think 13 days, and the Peru divide or the Peru I was there almost a month or whatever it was. So in that it was bigger in that sense. Okay, you asked best beach, best desert. Well, Sahara was cool because of the tailwind, but in terms of like raw beauty, the Namib Desert in Namibia was probably the most epic. You're just
Mm.
like really out there alone, amazing sunsets every night, a little taste of wildlife. Some onyxes will gallop by you in the middle of the day, and then you might get lucky and see some other stuff. So that one really was alone, and then under the stars at night, like so. The Namib Desert was probably the most beautiful, and then favorite beach was. I mean, so many beaches, honestly. Like I think back to some of the early days in the Baja California was nice. I'd show up at a beach and I'd be the only one there camping. In Thailand, I went to I forget the name of the island. But you have a bunch of party islands in Thailand, and I went to like this non-party one and camped on a beach by myself for 2 days. That was a highlight, but I'm not remembering the name of the island right now.
The Aussie in me wanted you to say Australia, but of course you went up to the middle of Australia. So
Well, so is
there's a
Outback a
reason for you to
desert?
come back now, man.
Does the Outback count as a desert?
The outback is definitely a desert.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that was a silly question. Yeah,
The
yeah,
Simpson
definitely.
Desert, yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess I guess Australia too. Like, I mean, and then the Sahara. Honestly, I've done a lot of deserts at this point. I've done
You
Saudi
have.
Arabia, Australia,
Yeah.
Namibia, Sahara, Baja California, Northern Argentina. It's part of the Salar de Uni. Northern Argentina is Atacama Desert.
The Gobi Desert.
Gobi, oh yeah, Gobi. You're pulling them out for me. Some of Gobi. So yeah, I gotta find
So I
more. I
guess
guess to talk about.
to finish on my superficial questions, what's your favourite type of natural environment to be in then?
Oh, good. I mean, honestly, mountains for sure. Mountains. You get fresh air. You sleep at night with cold air, and you get cozy in your sleeping bag. Clean river water. You see some eagles or hawks flying above you. You get to the top of the pass. Like that's the stuff I really love, and that's kind of the feeling you could always chase and never get enough of. I would say. So definitely
So when you're
mountains.
going ultra racing, then Samer, you're going to
Yeah.
be going to the Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco.
Maybe, right? Favorite country, favorite climate. So
There you go. I've picked it for you. There
there
you
you
are.
go.
2026 start line. I've just given you your new goal.
Wow, seed planted. All right, well, you're saying that, but now I'm saying it too. So now I have to do it, right?
Yeah, you've said it. Now, if you do it, I'm podcasting with you. We'll have to have round 3.
Deal. Yeah, I know mountains, and I know you're in the Pyrenees and the
Yeah, you could
Alps.
come here and
So
train.
I do. Wow, maybe. Well, I think I don't know if I told you last time. I have an aunt in Carcassonne who lives there,
There
which
you
is
go.
access to the Pyrenees. So
I was in Carcassonne a couple of months ago. I should have gone and visited her. Damn.
if I had known, I would have let you know.
As they say here, un autre jour, another day. Saima, what was it like the day that you did arrive in Beirut? Bringing this leg of that chapter together. I know that you had an awesome welcoming party. I've seen the videos of you there being welcomed by friends and
Yeah.
family, and it must have been amazing and to get to that. Did it feel real? Did it feel surreal? Like, what sort of feelings were going through you leading up to and on that day?
Yeah. So the last day, or honestly, the more like emotional day you could say was the second to last day, because I knew like on the last day I had some of my best friends from Lebanon were gonna come meet me and ride with me, and I knew like people were waiting for me in Beirut. But so people wanted to meet me at the border, and I was like, no, no, no. Like I'd rather have like my last day alone and doing my favorite climb in Lebanon and like be by myself to have my moment. That was like everything I dreamed of and more, because like I had my last day. I did like my favorite climb in Lebanon. Like it was perfect weather. I got to the top and like had a nice cry, and then like slept. And then I knew the next day I was like, all right, now it's mostly downhill because I slept at the top of the climb, and I'm like seeing friends. So like the last day was more of a celebration, but the second to last day was like really like my last day to myself. And everything I did, I was like, oh, like this is my last time putting my tent away. My last, like, it was kind of sad.
For this trip,
For this trip,
one
exactly.
thing, yeah, it's one thing that I can say is guaranteed. I don't think this is the end of you riding your bike to places.
Yeah, I know. You're 100% right.
However long those journeys are, whether they're like mini adventures that you have every weekend, whether you're doing month-long journeys, whether you're going to explore a country like Mongolia fully, I can see you taking bike travel. I don't see you ditching it somehow.
I know. I won't ditch it. Yeah, yeah. I could promise that too. So thank you. Yes. But yeah, I do need to find the right sauce, like the right. I don't know what it looks like yet. Like I was saying earlier.
Well, you don't need to have the answer for that just yet either. You can let it simmer and marinate,
I
and
know. It's
the
true.
flavor needs to develop before you
Yeah.
put it on before you put it on the barbecue.
And that last day, like the day before, like when I was my last day alone, that's why it was maybe so emotional, because like in my head I kept saying like it's my last day. But yeah, like now that I'm here talking to you, like my life isn't over. I'm only 31, right? That's like less than a third of my life, maybe a quarter if I live to 120. So I
Dude,
think
you're younger than me. You are young. You got lots of living.
I know, I know. So I have to remind myself that, it's all good. Things can be worse. I have food, I have water, I have my health, I still have my bike, I'm with my family. I can't complain really much about anything. So
Samer, you're someone who I know loves to rock out. You love a party. You probably love putting on a banging tune. You've been a guest on the show before, which means you know what's coming. I'm finishing things up. I asked the same 3 questions, and one of them is music related. You've already got a song on the playlist,
you're
but I need
right.
you to choose another one.
I remember which one. It's Yamore I put on, I think.
It is.
Okay.
What are you going to choose to be the soundtrack of your latest adventure?
Ooh. All right, wait, I'm going to my Spotify right now. Let's see. Like I want to give like a cool answer, but I also got to keep it real. Let's see what I listen to the most really quick.
Let's do it.
What was my song of this trip?
I watched a reel of you. It was just like, this is me packing up, and you were in one of those culverts, and it might have even been in the Gobi Desert, and you were chilling out and tuning up to start your day to a banging song. And
Yo,
you loved
that's
it
a
so
good
much you put
song.
it on again.
That's
I'm not
one
saying
of
that has
them.
to
Yeah.
be your song. I don't actually even know what it is.
Yeah, honestly, let me do a quick scan. That might be the one. That's "Don't Let Me Down" by Stephen Marley
That's the
version.
one.
You know what? Let's put that. Let's put that, because what I was gonna say is, because I don't know if I could give two, but also this one's probably already on the list. Is, have you ever seen the rain? by Credence Revival. But if you were to just do one, you could keep the first one. But at least for me, when I travel, is like I'll get a song I like and I'll just listen to it like so much for a few weeks, and then get sick of it and get a new song. And so when I go through my Spotify playlist and I see a song, it automatically brings me back to like the 3 week period where I listen to it like all the time.
Yeah. So where were you for that 3 week period? And have you seen the rain?
Have you seen the rain? Was I think the beginning of Australia, sort of in the outback.
I'll see, because I'm the host of the show. Because I'm the host of the show, both songs are going on the playlist.
I love it. All right, cool.
I love it
Yeah.
too. I love it too.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, cool.
Next one for you, Samer. You got a choice one day. You can turn left and you have to ride on the most corrugated, washboard, bumpy road in the world with no respite. There's no single central strip or either side of it where you can get any smoothness. Or you go right and you're going to be in the most horrendous headwind of your life. Which one are you going to choose?
Oh, like crazy headwind and crazy corrugations?
Yeah, the craziest of both.
Damn, that's hard. I guess I would take. Well, I in that situation, I would probably take corrugation because corrugation usually means like a nice road and more serene surrounding. So I guess if you're suffering, I'd rather suffer in the beautiful and the beauty than maybe the headwind on a straight road. So corrugations, I guess. And I remember the last question. I remember is it the same question?
It won't be since I asked you for your episode.
Okay,
It's been
okay.
the same question for a little bit. I want you to finish this sentence for me.
Oh no, it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah. So well, actually, because I'm the host, I'll ask you what the old question was as well. So, would you prefer to ride your bike alone or with others?
And I actually don't like what I answered last time. I think I said I'd rather bike alone, I think. But if I'm just going for a ride, like I'd rather with friends, yeah. But
Call Brian up.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. If you have like the right match, it enhances the ride. But you could also like be with someone you don't get along with, who's either way faster than you and way slower, and it makes your day miserable. So like with the right person, always would rather it with someone. But also, it's nice to be alone too.
Yeah, or maybe your perfect scenario is that you're alone, but you're meeting the nice friend at the pit stop and eating great food.
That could be true too. I mean, it's like a classic pros and cons. Like when you're alone, you're the boss. Every decision you make is yours. You're accountable. Like you're the running the show. But the con is like you get to a beautiful moment and it's like you'd love to share it with someone. Or you'd love to like share a joke with someone or share a meal.
Yeah, and that's what I would feel hardest with. Like, and when I did a solo ride this year, I was forever having moments where I was like, I wish my husband was here. He's my genuine best friend. He's my bike traveling buddy, and not being able to share stuff with him sucks. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I could feel that conundrum. Well, last question. Finish this sentence for me. The best thing about taking a bike adventure is
freedom.
freedom.
Yeah, it's just nothing like being out on your bike. The sun is setting. You don't even know where you're going to sleep. You got your favorite song hitting different while you're pedaling. That's what it's all about, you know? I think, yeah, it's like the closest I've ever been and ever will be to freedom is just being on your bike.
Yeah, and you know what, Samer? I've seen photos and videos of you where I can just see a big cheesy grin, your hands off the bars, just coasting, feeling sweet. That's you in that nutshell right there.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah. Has anyone else
I
said
love
freedom?
it.
Has anyone else answered that?
Steph Devery said freedom.
Ah,
Yep,
good
absolutely.
answer.
Another awesome kick-ass bike traveler. So
Yeah, I
there we
follow her.
go.
She's doing like skiing, biking now in Canada, I think.
She is indeed. She is indeed. She's a legend. You're a legend, Steph. I
Legend.
always enjoy my sessions with Steph because two Aussies and the Aussie slang comes out left, right, and centre.
And actually, just to show you how small the world is sometimes, when I was in Saudi, one of the cars that stopped for me was like, oh, I met another woman traveling here a few years ago. And I was like, oh, I think I know who. And they're like, yeah, she like got stopped in Sudan and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, I know exactly who
Wow,
that
it
is.
was
Yeah.
Steph.
Steph, yeah.
That's nuts.
So I've never met
That's
Steph, but like
amazing.
I met someone who met her, and it's like a crazy world out there how small it
That's
is. So,
hilarious. I love it. I love it. That's brilliant. Oh my gosh. Samer, what an awesome time we have had together. I knew it would be when I pressed record. When you came on the call, I saw your smiling face and I thought, we're going to have an awesome adventure. It's not chronological. You've been to too many places for a single episode to do you justice. We've had 2 episodes together. I feel I could do an episode per country and still not get to the depth of the experiences that you've had. But what a journey it's been. And I hope that the questions have prompted you with reminders of what you've done as well, because I feel when you've taken stuff that's an adventure this size, I'm not sure how it sinks in. And maybe you're the person that gets your phone and you flick through a photo or you see a video or you smell something or you eat something special at the restaurant that's going to take you back there. But you'll be flooded with memories for all sorts of reasons. I know that you'll have a goal to work towards in the future. Maybe it is the Atlas Mountain Race.
Maybe it is.
Watch this space, listeners. Watch this space.
And Tourmalet still, too. Tourmalet, too.
Yeah, Tourmalet and Ventoux, because something I do remember from our first episode together is Samer never stops. So don't stop, my friend.
You.
Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for everything. Savor up the memories. Scroll through those photos. Remind yourself daily. And more importantly, thank you so much for sharing your stories and experiences and being a dead set legend here on the podcast for Seek Travel Ride.
Thank you, Bella, for having me. It's been a blast. And yeah, I really appreciate what you've done for the community. And I think you've brought a lot of people together. And I appreciate your questions, too. It is a breath of fresh air to have different questions and like, what was the scariest moment and what was your, favorite this or that, which is a lot of what I've gotten the last 2 weeks, which is fine. I don't blame people, but it is nice to have a nice deeper talk with someone who kind of understands the bike traveling world. So thank you for giving me a platform to speak. And, I hope I have more adventures and one day we'll be on for round 3 together on your podcast.
Yeah, and a ride together too, buddy.
Yes,
for
100%
sure.
on that.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you,
Okay.
Samer.
Thanks so much, Bella. Take care.
There we go, listeners. I hope you absolutely enjoyed my catch up there with Samer. It was really fun for me to speak with him and just hear about lots of different aspects of his journey. As I said in the close up there, I feel when people take on such long distance feats, it's something that must be hard for them to sort of just instantly think of an answer to a question. Like, they've had so many experiences, right? And as Samer said when I asked him, what was the time where you had that WTF moment? I can't believe I am dealing with this. And as he said, on a bike adventure, it almost happens every day. It brings me back to a point that I've brought up a few times, and that is that when you go on a bike adventure, you become an expert in problem solving. You don't know what the problems are going to be, but you're going to solve them along the way, and you're going to find solutions, and you're going to keep pedaling forward, which is exactly what Samer has done as well. I've had some great insights into the areas that he has visited, and I'm fairly certain that there are more adventures in his future, so be sure to check him out and keep a tab on what's up next for him as well. And now, listeners, if you have enjoyed Seek Travel Ride, you love the podcast episodes that I am pumping out each and every week, be sure to go to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can buy me some virtual brews and keep the podcast rolling. You can just go to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. Buy me some coffees, but more importantly, let me know what is it that you absolutely love about the podcast and where is your next bike adventure going to be taking you. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.